Good morning, everyone. We will start with the first session for today. The first session will deal with inequalities in the Middle East, and we'll discuss the issue of gender and migration. The first presenter will be Dr. Janan Faraj Falah. Dr. Falah is a researcher and lecturer on gender and peace. He published many articles on that subject, specializes in Arab women in Israel and Druze women and the role of women in bringing peace. Janan is going to talk about women's social status in the Middle East. Janan? רגע.
עכשיו שומעים אותי?
כן.
רואים את המצגת?
רגע.
כן, הכל מצוין.
אבל...
יופי. As good morning everybody, I'm proud and happy to be in this session, this important session. אוקיי, למה זה לא הולך? אוקיי. I will begin to speak about three Arab women that were leaders in the past. First one called Nazira Jumblat, the grandma of Walid Jumblat, and she was the governor of the Shuf Mountains area from 1925 to 1943 in Lebanon. The second important woman is Dr. Nazira Ad-Dulaimi. She was a doctor in medicine and she was the first minister of the Arab world. She was inaugurated in 1958 in Iraq. And the third woman is Hikmat Abu Zaid, also the second Arab woman that was nominated as a minister. She was nominated in 1962. If we want to compare with the West, we can notice that in Switzerland, the women were allowed to vote only in 1971. Let's take a general look about the women's status. Excuse me, I should take the icons aside.
Janan, your microphone is off. Janan? Okay.
Sorry. יש לי עוד בעיה שהמצגות לא עוברות. עכשיו היו בסדר, מה קרה?
We now see the slide, the status of women in the Middle East, a general look. This is what we see. Okay?
Okay. Yeah. This one, I want to move to the second one. We can say that Israel is ranked in the first place after it, Greece, Cyprus, Turkey, Bahrain, and the UAE. The countries with the lowest status we notice from the diagram is Yemen, Syria, Jordan, and so on. We can notice also that the women in the Middle East are more discriminated when compared to other regions of the world. The Gender Gap Report for 2020 estimated that the gap between men and women in the Middle East countries is so vast, and it will take more than 140 years to close this gap. אותה בעיה, אני לא מצליחה להעביר את המצגת. אני לא מצליחה.
Try to close it.
זה תקוע.
Try to close it.
Okay, I couldn't move between it. לא הצלחתי, לא יודעת מה קורה, עכשיו היה הכל בסדר. יכול להיות משהו מאצלכם?
אני אסיר את השיתוף.
שנייה. ננסה עוד פעם. I don't know what happened. אולי עכשיו. לא, אותה בעיה. תסירי את השיתוף, אני לא יודעת מה קורה אצלי.
Janan, we don't have your presentation, so try to share it again.
Okay, I'll do that.
תשאירי את זה פתוח בפאורפוינט, אל תעבירי למצב של הצגה.
כן, אוקיי. איפה זה? זה פתוח. עכשיו, אתם רואים את זה?
כן.
יופי. אז אני אעבור הלאה.
הנה. זה בסדר.
אתם
It's okay, yes,
יופי,
yes.
יופי, יופי, יופי. Sorry, I will continue. What I want to say that the status of women in the Middle East is reflected in 4 areas: education, economics, politics, and decision making, preventing of discrimination and prevention of deprivation of women. Some of these inequalities originate from law, religious law, that are sometimes also the state law. For example, the freedom to vote and be elected, the freedom to move from place to place, family laws, economic rights. I want to show you something, that there is a movement called Women to Drive, that was campaigning by Saudi women who the government denied money rights to which men are entitled for the right to drive motor vehicle on public roads. But on 2018, King Salman issued a statement recognizing the right of Saudi women to drive in keeping with Sharia. Okay. List of indicators for building the women's status index. The first thing is education, that weight 25%. The second thing is the economics, 25% also. The third is politics and decision making, also a quarter. And the last one is the prevention of discrimination and prevention of deprivation. Computation of each index for each sub-indicator in each country, taking the ratio of the gap between women and men for each sub-indicator for each country, computing these scores as a standard score for each sub-index, sums up of these scores of all countries, for each main index, sum up of all sub-indexes. Education. Let's begin with the definition. The state of women's education compared to men education in the Middle Eastern country. High values in the indices that is to higher level of education of women and narrowing the gaps between them and men. A list of indicators for building the women's status in women's involving in education. As I saw, 25% indicators. If we look at Israel in higher education 2021, women had a majority, 59.7% in all degrees. The percentage of women among Arab was particularly high, 68%, twice the percentage of men, meaning that for every Arab student there were 2 Arab female students. Among the ultra-Orthodox too, the percentage of women was relatively high. That's estimate of 67%. If we look at the education of women versus men in the Middle East, in the first place is Qatar. Israel is estimate of the eighth place. The lowest place is Yemen, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Jordan, Morocco, and so on. Education is a key to the labor market. Reducing the educational gap between men and women is also reducing the gaps in labor market and earning capacity. Economic, the definition, women contribution to economic conduct and freedom for economic development. High values in indicators indicate greater involvement of women in the economy. Also, if we want to look at the list of indicators for building the Women's Status Index in economics, we can look at what we have in this presentation. We can notice that Israel in the third place, women's involvement in the countries, and the last place is Jordan. The first place is Greece. Participating rate of women in the workforce in the Middle East and North Africa is among the lowest in the world, and according to World Bank data is only around 20%. According to the World Economic Forum estimates, the Middle East loses roughly $575 billion a year as a result of economic discrimination against women. Politics and decision making definition, placement of women in the position that increase their access to decision making in society, and high values in these indicators indicate greater involvement of women decision making at the state level in the Middle Eastern country. The list of indicators for building the Women's Status Index. Women involvement in politics also only 25%, percentage of women seats in the parliament, percentage of women ministerial position, percentage of women in senior management position in the economy, men or women ratio, human capital index. We can see that Israel in the first place in women's involvement in politics and decision making, and Syria in the last place. This is photos of 4 women that were presidential candidacy in the Middle East. The first one, Samiha Khalil, 2020 in Palestine. The second one, Buthaina Kamel, 2014 in Egypt. The third one is Fatina Ali Nahar, 2021 in Syria. And the last one, Miriam Peres, 2021 in Israel. As whom the winner, the men. The events of Arab Spring in 2011 changed the women's position. Women in Western countries currently hold 30% of all seats in the House of Parliament. In the Middle East, they hold on average just over 18 of seats in the Houses of Parliament. In Israel is the top of the list. After the Arab Spring Revolution, we can see, but I want to speak about something. In 1956, there was a law in Tunisia that prohibited the polygamy. But after the Arab Spring of 2010, they tried to bring back the law on polygamy. And this is a photo that was published about the women, and it's written in Arabic. It's for the leaders in Tunisia, and it's written, "Do not steal our revolution." prevention of discrimination and prevention of deprivation of women, areas in which the discrimination and deprivation exist towards women that prevent them from developing and contributing equally to society, high values indicator in the countries where they actively work to promote the status of women and to prevent gender discrimination by enhancing and enforcing law. Also, the prevention of discrimination and prevention of is about 25%. Women's family deprivation index, women's deprivation index in economics, human rights, women deprivation index. We can see that Israel in the fourth place in discrimination and deprivation of women in the Middle East. The first place is Turkey. The last place is the Qatar, Kuwait. The status of women in the Middle East. Yesterday, women are discriminated against in a variety of aspects and suffer oppression, violence, and humiliation. This is the influence of a long-lasting cultural and social tradition. The status of women in the Middle East today, often in Arab countries in the Middle East, and the adoption of more advanced regulation and laws alongside education, advocacy, and awareness enable women to better cope with these phenomena. The status of women in the Middle East tomorrow. The indicator presented in this will focus and point out direction on which we must work in order to move forward. If we look at the Nobel Prize female winners, until now there are only 16 women, 3 from the Middle East, Shireen Abadi, 2003 from Iran, Tawakkul Karaman from Yemen, 2011, Nadia Murad from Iraq, 2018. Our Ada Yonat Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, it was in 2009. I like this photo. I'll tell you why. Nobel Peace Prize winners 2011. Tawakkul Karaman, and in the middle, Lima Gebwe, and the third woman in the right, Sierra Leave, that she was the president of her country. And this is Lima Gebwe with me. I met her. She is a very special woman. She gave us a big inspiration for peace, for women activity, and for doing a lot for the future of our country, our region, and all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Janan. Is